Halifax here back in my basement. Fire up your flux capacitor. Load up Mr. Fusion. Because we're going back to 2015. So the year is 2015. There's not a V2 run in sight. The last V2 was probably done by Russ Rep years ago. There was a V2 drought. One night, I'm roaming the RPF in the project run thread. It was 11 o'clock at night, and boom. Anakin Starkiller posts his V2 run. I was unaware of this. Right away, I snagged one. I was actually number one on that list. I'll try and find a screen capture of it if it still exists. So why am I saying this? Because for me, it all started that night at 11 o'clock when I got on that run. And since then, my life forever changed. What I have here today with me is actually a Starkiller Gen 1, which I've heavily modified. Now, it's not finished. I still have to put the gaffer's tape on the neck, locking it in, and I have to put the fishing line on. So when I ship it, it'll have the gaffer's tape with the emitter locked and the fishing line on. So this is Starkiller's Gen 1. Which was made in 2015 before we had all the reference material we have today. This is way before the Pop Culture Quest video. This is before Brandon's profile picture. Our reference back then was 5 or 6 photos that were taken on an angle on a faded old projector at Celebration 7. And if the man is watching who filmed that, I have to seriously thank you for filming that and taking those screen captures, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have ever had those photos. So if you're watching this, I sincerely thank you for taking those photos. And if you don't mind reaching out to me, I'd love to talk to you. So and thank you personally. So this is the Gen 1, but it's heavily modified. With the new reference that's come up over the years, our standard reference, which we have now, I was able to tweak it here and there. But for comparison's sake, here is my personal very first V2 I've ever done. This is my Starkiller Gen 1, which is by far my favorite V2 because this started it all for me. This one holds dear to my heart because it started it all. And there's such a story behind it with all the friendships I've made and the team that collaborated to make this all happen. Because when we got it, it was just the hilt and the cone knob. And the D-ring too. I believe we got a D-ring with it. And then we had Roman make us clamps because back then we barely ever had any graphics clamps too. Roman had clamps just for the MK1s. So Roman made a run of clamps for us. Sloth made us a really nice card, and Wanawanga stepped up to the plate and made us our very first long levers. But as you can see, they are fairly different. The ring section I've heavily modified, not just with the space of the rings, but the depths of the grenade section. The wind vane I've remachined to make it more accurate, and the emitter I've machined down to the accurate width. As you can tell, the paint chips are very different because this is Trent's Gen 1 stencils, which he did for us. And then he retired after, I believe, Starkiller's Unibody run. He stopped making them. But after some heavy modification and a lot of custom work, I was able to get Trent's stencils to work. So this Gen 1 is actually sporting Trent's Gen 2 stencils. As you can see, the mystery chunk we used back then was just a plug. I believe it was a 1/4 inch plug that we screwed in there. Yeah. This was a square plug that we rounded off to fit inside here. And surprisingly enough, I got that mystery chunk hole in the right spot back then. Starkiller made a cone knob that was copied off of a vintage cone knob, so the dimensions fit exactly. Height and width, it is exact. And again, on vintage cone knobs, the knurling varies from cone knob to cone knob, so it's hard to make that exact. And everybody's home now, so all we hear is noise. Dang it. I'm gonna have to continue this later because everybody's home and it's gonna be loud as hell. Alright, so I have some free time and I'm gonna go back to where we left off. We were talking about the mystery chunk. So on the old Starkiller we used that square plug, or square-headed bolt. This actually has a upgraded D-ring. This is from his second kit, but I have a picture of the first D-rings that came with the kit compared to his FX kit and how much more accurate they are. So for comparison, I'm just going to leave the unmodified Gen 1 right here. So we'll go over the modified Gen 1. The emitter has been machined to the right spec, the wind vane, the rings, installed the vintage mystery chunk for him, the milling circle, installed the correct D-ring with centering plug so it won't move out of place. Sloth's card, Wonawanga lever, aged and weathered. Starkiller's Gen 1 cone knob, which I think is perfect. This, I believe, is a vintage clamp. It sure looks vintage to me. Then we aged the Wonawanga locking block and weathered the clamp up. It's got the dust inside the rings. So what I like about this is built like the original prop, where it's in 3 sections: pommel, main body, and emitter. There is a large misconception about the weight of the V2 because of that one quote that Hamill says.
It's heavy, isn't it?
I'm like, boy, this is heavy. So I'm going to be making a video on the V2's weight. People think that it's solid and just got a hole down the middle, but with my experimenting with the Legends, it can't be because there's just not enough room for everything. And there's some photos out there showing the inside, and it's not solid. So we're going to take this apart and show you guys, because this is the closest thing we have to the inside dimensions of the real prop. There's the pommel. It's solid. The pommel's solid, so it's very, very heavy. It's wicked heavy. And then inside here, you can see how it's hollow. And I'm going to remove the drive shaft. Making sure. That's another thing with the emitter. Only one side was drilled for 3mm. So I had to drill a corresponding hole here, and then underneath the emitter cap, that lip there, it didn't have holes, so I had to drill and tap those as well. The drive shaft I machined like the original one, so the set screws sit in it correctly. Now this should fall out. Starkiller supplied a Baron with his first kit. Baron I got stuck in there right now. Let's see if I can get it out. So realistically, that is what the inside looks like. And this thing still has some weight to it. We're going to weigh it all and post the weight over here. 1 pound, 7 ounces for the boys overseas. 659 grams. You can see how thick the inside walls are, and how the inside isn't solid. It's hollow for the motor and electronics. Everybody's under that misconception when Hamill says, "Oh, it's heavy." He's used to new age stuff all CNC'd out of 6061 aircraft aluminum, so it's super, super light. And another thing too is when I send this, it's going to be in a orientation, so I kind of recommend not taking it apart, because nothing upsets me more than watching somebody do a review on something that I finished and they took it apart and they didn't put it back correctly. So they're talking about my work and it's wrong. It drives me nuts. So that's why I beg, please don't take it apart, because most of the time it doesn't go back the same way. Every single thread has been greased, and then the vintage mystery chunk I drilled and inserted in there like the real prop. But I just wanted to show off the Gen 1. If you have a Gen 1 and you want to get rid of it, please contact me somehow, because I want one for myself. After doing this, this is the V2 I want to display for my personal collection. I don't want to modify mine because this is like a time capsule. When people come over, they say, why don't you just update it? I don't want to update it because this is a time capsule. I was able to share the story about it just now with you guys, and when people come over, I share that same story, and I would love to have them side by side to show the differences between time. So if you have a Gen 1 and you want to get rid of it, please reach out to me. I'll pick it up from you. So again, this is going to go out this week to the client. I just got to put the gaffer's tape on and the fishing line, but I'm going to do another video, so I'll be using it again for demonstration purposes. So I have to thank the client for reaching out and having me do this. And I had a wicked fun time doing this because it was like going back in time. I don't even think I had the shed when I did this. I don't think I did. I did this in the driveway where the shed is today. But yeah, so that's how long ago it's been. I want to thank everybody at home for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video. My mother's home and she's loud as hell. It's 9:20 at night. What the hell is she doing home? I think it's the only Gen 1 that's been upgraded and modified to this level. So enjoy it. And again, if somebody out there has one, please hit me up. I want it. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one. This is HalloX, out.